folks, Joseph Sobora here. I'm finally back after 2.5 weeks of absence, focusing on all these commercial breaks as usual, posting it onto my YouTube channel, and doing a lot of busy stuff with the family. Yeah. Of course, I was also relaxing, watching some movies, some TV shows on my 4K TV and player and all, the usual. You may already know that today is Super Bowl Sunday, with the Rams going after the other football team, hoping to win the trophy if they keep this up. I mean, who knows who's going to win? While they have a halftime show, and then between those plays, there's going to be commercials, like any new commercial that they're putting, even the movies that are coming up later. So they're almost going to be like long trailers or maybe short, the usual. I know I'm not really into sports as much, but because I don't watch sports, but sometimes I do watch, sports movies and other stuff too, just to keep up. So I'm not exactly, big on them. But sometimes I do like to play, Sometimes I like to play baseball or football and all that. Even basketball. But that's not the case. Also to occur that tomorrow is going to be Valentine's Day. Hard to believe. Yep, the season of love. Well, the perfect day for it. So I thought it'd be great to do a movie review, since I haven't done one in a while, that has to do with romance and love altogether. And I just got this at Five Below. It's a date night double feature Blu-ray pack of the two films that are included, Dear John and The Bow. Both feature Channing Tatum, as you may know, the hunkiest actor alive from films like Step Up and the 21 Jump Street movies. But he also had been in films like Magic Mike, Side Effects, White House Down, and all the rest. Yeah. And what's interesting is that he's teaming up with two of the actresses who were previously in the movie Mean Girls. Yes, Amanda Seyfried and Rachel McAdams. Yeah, Dear John, of course, is based on a Nicholas Sparks novel, while The Bow is based on true events that occurred. Yeah. And I'm going to show you what the Blu-ray looks like right here on both. But here we go. Here's the Blu-rays of both Dear John and The Bow with their disc art. Very fancy. Yeah, the spine right here and the back that just shows you the poster arts of both of these films. Some information. They didn't mention any special features, but it just says, special features not rated. They show you the audios and the picture quality. They tell you exactly the size. Both of these films are in scope, by the way, so keep that in mind. And the languages and everything. But the features are included on this release. You just have to play the disc to find out for yourself. But hey, you can even search it on Blu-ray.com to figure that out. So, anyway, so now I'm going to be reviewing Dear John. I'll get to The Bow later, which is a story about a young soldier, working for the special forces in the army, who falls in love with a beautiful young woman, and since then they exchange letters to each other, reading and writing while he's up at war. Stars once again Channing Tatum with Amanda Seyfried, Henry Thomas, Elliot from E.T. the Extraterrestrial. He's been in several movies after that. He was also in Psycho 4 at the beginning when he played a very young Norman Bates. Yeah, hard to believe. Richard Jenkins, who was from the movie The Witches of Eastwick, but he was also in other films like The Visitor and all these other ones that he's doing. Luke Benward, Brendan Reed, yes, the real life autistic kid. Scott Porter, DJ Cotrona, Colin Moss, and Gavin McCulley, based on a novel by Nicholas Sparks, who wrote several books that would soon become film adaptations, such as Messages in the Bottle with Kevin Costner, Robin Wright Penn, and Paul Newman, along with A Walk to Remember with Mandy Moore, pop singer, teaming up with Shane West and Peter Coyote, also from E.T. the Extraterrestrial. We also had The Notebook with Ryan Gosling, along with Rachel McAdams from Mean Girls. Joining in with Jenna Rollins, James Gardner, and James Marsden. And all the other films that follow. Okay. So it's written by Jamie Linden, and it's directed by Lasse Hallström. As you may remember, he's the Swedish director who gave us What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Chocolat, The Cider House Rules, and Hachi, A Dog's Tale, among others. A fascinating director. He's done a lot of romantic, heartfelt, emotional dramas that we can concur, and it just feels so real. The movie begins taking place in Afghanistan in 2003. While serving in United States Army Special Forces, we meet a young Staff Sergeant, John Tyree, who's played by Channing Tatum, who just got shot by a terrorist, which leads to his childhood memories as a glimpse where he was at the U.S. Mint, which he compares himself as a coin. Yeah, that's where we get to see how they mix in with all the silver, and they create all these coins such as pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, silver dollar, gold dollar, you name it. So it's like gold and silver currencies that we got inside this machine. And it looks amazing how they did that. Perfect close-up shots here and there. But one of the biggest rare coins that his father, Mr. Tyree, played by Richard Jenkins, had took him to was he loves to collect a lot of coins throughout his entire house. That's pretty much what he focuses on. Was this one rare coin that has a 5-cent nickel picture of President Jackson on the front, but on the back there's the Lincoln Memorial with 1 cent. That's from the penny. That's slapped in, sort of like a mistake, but it's a very rare mistake that it turns out to be a mural, and it was up at $4,000. So I guess if you have to wait this long, maybe it'll go for even more valuable than ever. Amazing. So now it leads to 2 years earlier, in the spring of 2001, in Charleston, South Carolina. John was ready to leave while he's just going around surfing, and then somehow found the purse that was inside the beach that was dropped on the pier. And that's where he meets a young college student named Savannah Curtis, who's played by Amanda Seyfried, who was building homes with a group of co-eds for the Habit for Humanity. While they were on spring break, they were at the beach, just having, the best time of their lives, joining around with her friends. She later invited John to a bonfire party where he meets her neighbor, Tim, played by Henry Thomas, along with his autistic son, Alan, who's played by Brendan Reed, who of course has autism in real life. So over the course of 2 weeks, they go on several dates, and they eventually fall in love with each other. Later on, Savannah had met John's father, Mr. Tyree, who was very obsessed with his entire coin collection, as I mentioned already. And he also makes some delicious lasagna. Therefore, that's what leads to the secret that Savannah had to spread out, was that he was thinking that John's father might compare to Alan, that he too might have high function autism, which at this rate would be Asperger's syndrome. Yeah, and I guess we could relate to this too, because I have autism and my sister has Asperger's too. That's when John got so angry at Savannah that he didn't want to speak to her, so he ran off, got so mad, and somehow her friend just came by to talk to him, but he didn't want to explain. He just wanted to move on. But then he forced him into it, and then John just punches him in the face, and then he accidentally punched Tim just when he came by. He felt really bad about that, but he really apologized for his attitude. But it's true, people will get angry if someone said something stupid to their family members, because that's just not right. Yeah. So even Savannah should have known better about that. But she's doing what she can to help him out. Maybe just because maybe they had sort of a relationship, so maybe I could see what happened here, that now we could see, trying to study his father, thinking that he might have the same symptom that Alan does. At that point on, Savannah tries to make it up for John after what she said. She apologized. So they haven't spoken to each other for a little while until later on. John was ready to, work for the Special Forces with his entire crew. So he's just ready to go up in the Army, helping, going to several countries, helping all the folks around, such as Africa, which is Congo, and all these Eastern European countries as we speak, until 9/11 happened. With the Twin Towers of the two planes crashing in, and it was falling apart. Everyone was dying. Everyone fell off of the building. It was a horrible tragedy that he'll never forget. And that's what's going to lead to what happens next, because once he finally came back home in Charleston, they just had a party. He was invited, but now John and Savannah decided to come up with their new plans. So since he won't be able to see Savannah for a while, and not even his father, Mr. Tyree, that he decided to be enlisted to the Army, so that way he'll continue the fight against terrorism that's happening. Yeah, because there was a terrorist attack, with Osama bin Laden and everything that's happening. So, and this was going on for several years. So since then, John and Savannah had agreed to exchange letters to each other. They had to write, so that way they'll find out what's going on in their lives. Savannah is going around taking care of Alan and his son, because we also learned that Alan has a terminal disease. Yeah, he has cancer, and hoping that he'll get better. So at that point on, this led to conflicts, because now he will soon get married to him, because she was afraid that she might end up losing John, because he might get killed. But John, on the other hand, yes, he did got shot, as we saw in the flashbacks, when he went to Afghanistan with the rest of the crew. He had been writing a lot of letters to her, hoping that Savannah had received. But somehow he got upset because of what he heard from her, that she couldn't write to him lately, and then found out that she was married to him, and then it blows over. So at that point on, after he got shot, he was rushed to the hospital. He fully recovered after coming out of the coma. You know, he had surgery and all, and then he was ready to go back home. But he was hoping that maybe he'll still continue to serve the country, you know, doing his duty, his special force, before he's finally ready to go back home to Charleston. And that's when we found out that his father had suffered a stroke. You know, he had to read him a letter that he wrote to him. Very touching moment right there, and very sad too. And after that, he passed away. So now he finally came back to Savannah, hoping things will turn out. And this is where he explains to Savannah why that she didn't write to him at the last moment, because she was so busy. She had to take care of Tim and Alan and everything that was going on. Alan has now grown up. He's now a teenager, while Tim, however, is recovering from his disease. And now that he finally came back home, well, there's going to be some new changes going around in their lives. So at this rate, John and Savannah, well, they may not be together, but at some point or another, they will, if this happens. And this is what went on at the end of the movie, when he was somewhere in, I think it might be Paris, I think. But it's an Eastern European country he was in. They went to this cafe. He spotted her, and, well, they fell in love, as we know it. So it's a very touching, powerful, romantic war drama that I really inspired, really enjoy. Really felt for these characters too, how they were going for. And great performances by Channing Tatum and Amanda Seyfried, and as well as Henry Thomas, Richard Jenkins, and even Brendan Reed. It was so rare to actually cast an autistic kid to play the parts, and he plays them exactly well. If you watch the special features on the Blu-ray, if you have the Blu-ray, because I know I do, they actually had a featurette focusing on this kid who isn't an actor, but he was well portrayed this way, because we learned that Nicholas Sparks himself, I think he had a kid who has autism, so also written that into the story. So that's very touching to see that. Very rare. We get to see, you know, his symptoms, you know, his movements, his communications, all of that in the movie. He also hangs around with the crew, so that's why at times, you know, he was absent from his school, so he could spend more time with the film crew and everyone involved. You know, he got cake there. You know, he even got to ride on a horse. Yeah, they went horseback riding in this one pivotal scene. It was really touching, heartfelt. that was just incredible. I love that. I love that moment when Savannah was with Alan inside the ranch. Because of course, Savannah also works at the ranch, you know, taking care of horses and everything around that he and Tim had to work together on. You know, I mean, this will earn money this way. And I love that in that featurette, you know, focusing on Brennan, was that they really did explain about autism and what it meant to be. Because I didn't even know what it was at first, you know. I knew I had it, but I didn't know what it meant. But they did explain in details that it's a neurology disorder. It's a learning disability, as I concurred and figured that out. So I know it had to do with communication and all, and he had to figure everything out if the brain starts to work. You know, they use their own signs, everything, and I know they even close their ears, you know, if loud sounds could affect them. Yeah, that's how I felt too when I had to deal with loud noises. Yeah. And like Brendan, though, I used to go to horseback riding in Sun Valley at the Ahead with Horses. When I was in elementary school, I used to go horseback riding and just had fun, you know, having to ride on a horse. I even get to pet the horse, and the way we see the eyes of a horse, you know, looking straight at him, it's just amazing. And also these moments with his father, you know, John's father, who is very shy, very quiet. I mean, he doesn't quite communicate with his son very well at times because he's not exactly himself. Like, he just want to concentrate on all the coins that he has. You know, he's also creating them too. You know, he's finding all these rare items, hoping that someday he'll sell them, if this ever happens. And also, you know, maybe have some time with his son, if, you know, since he's going to be going away soon. So that's why he's making some delicious lasagna. And I know they also made some, you know, for Savannah too. The love and tender moments between John and Savannah are just wonderful. They definitely have terrific chemistry together. I could definitely see how they spark. You really felt for these characters because, you know, since they're being distant from one place to another, so I know it's going to be really hard to contact. I mean, you know, you're afraid that, you know, one might get killed, the other one's just going to be all alone with no one, unless he's in touch with Alan as well as Tim, or even her friends too, for that matter. So it's hard. It really is. Also, this is interesting too, because I saw another featurette of this, was that they show a lot of sets. Now, even though they're not filmed in Afghanistan, nor Eastern European, or even Congo, Africa, for that matter, it turns out that all of this was shot in Charleston. So that means that it's all part of a set. Production designer decided to create every aspect of all these scenes around in the movie, so it makes you look like you're actually in there. They're trying to make it as real as possible, but the reason why they couldn't film at these particular countries was because of budget constraint and all that. So they want to keep it as small as possible. I mean, yeah, I mean, the budget was only $25 million. So even that alone, I mean, that's how they had to use these sets alone to build as part of the story to tell. Because if they had to shoot them at those locations, it's going to cost them even more than what they bargained. But it's really nice because it definitely looks totally realistic. You know how they created the buildings, like they had this factory that looked like it's going to be the third world country as we know it. Everything was all in shambles because they had a war. You begin to see a lot of Turkish people, you know, wearing burqas and all, and then you see them speaking their language, and then suddenly, you know, all these terrorists are heading around all these buildings and factories, all that, you know, ready to attack. And then we begin to see what Congo looks like. That's shot on this portion of the area. So you do get to see African people and everyone around, and they get to dance, you know, play the Congo and all the bongos and all that. Yeah, the bongos. And then there's even the shot of the. I figured this was France, but it's Eastern European country, where you get to see the cafe. It was actually built inside an abandoned school, which also had a playground there. So they had to use this by adding the awning, and they added all this other stuff, all the signs and everything, to make it look more Eastern European. And that's how we spotted. They even added the TV in there, where they showed the news reports of 9/11. And this even, I find it hard to believe, they even had a poster and a sign right there that even says Chocolat, because they figured this would be the building, you know, with the chocolate. So it almost seemed like a memory of Lasse's film. I thought that was really cool. Has a great soundtrack. A lot of songs sung by like 311. Yes, there's a 311 song called Amber. There's Joshua Braeden and Shalosler Fisk, as you may remember from Snow Day. Yeah, she's a singer. Where they both had the song Paperweight. And there's a theme song for Dear John that's done by Deborah Laree. And there's even a song by Amanda Seyfried too, called Little House. So incredible. It was a hit for a while. It did, apparently it grossed at $115 million worldwide out of its $25 million budget. So this was a great hit for February, while Avatar was still going big, going strong, you know, ever since December. A lot of movies were coming out at this time, so it explains. Unfortunately, though, yeah, it got mixed reviews from critics. It got a 28% on Rotten Tomatoes, which did not deserve. I mean, it's like, once again, they keep saying that this movie is cliche from all these other tearjerkers that all these Nicholas Sparks movies have concurred. And it's just like all these other love story movies that we get. I'm like, I get it, man. But it wasn't cliche at all. I mean, this was well done, well made. It is a tearjerker, but it's a great tearjerker. The performances, the location, the story, the characters. It's strong. Even has a very strong message to it. So I don't know what these critics are watching. I mean, maybe they've been watching too many Lifetime movies, and they think so themselves. Oh, I don't know. Or maybe they have a vendetta against Nicholas Sparks. I mean, I'm not so sure about that. But whatever the case, I don't care what they say. I like this movie. I really do. I love this film, actually. I thought it was touching from the bottom of my heart. it's a great relationship from everyone out there who had this experience. I mean, especially the people from the force, you know, they have this experience, you know. They have a soldier in real life that writes letters to his love interest. Same goes with the women in the crew. I mean, they write letters to their loves and everything. It makes sense. I mean, it doesn't feel phony at all. I mean, it happens in real life, especially for those who work in the military. And I bought that story. I really did. It's not a manipulation. And it should never be. But I don't understand. But anyway, Dear John's a great movie. I enjoyed it. It's worth it, especially on Valentine's Day or any other. So that's the film, and I give the movie 4 stars. I'm Joseph A. Sobora, and I'll see you later. Bye.